My name's Keegan. If you don't know me, I know half the people in this room, more than half the people in this room. So,
I am Lisa.
Awesome. And what was your name? Jean. Awesome. Yeah, I think we have met. But yeah, anyway, I will be speaking on microblogs in Drupal, basically, writing your articles on your Drupal site and then posting your social media content to all your other sites, or to social media, basically, right from your Drupal site. So I work for Agaric. Agaric is a small, if you haven't heard of Agaric, we're a small worker-owned cooperative agency. We've been around since 2006, which I was a child then, so so they've been around for a little bit longer than I have. But I'm very grateful to everyone that I work with in Agaric, and it's been a really great experience and introduction into the Drupal space for me. So I want to take a second to also thank all the sponsors, and not just all the sponsors, but all the volunteers, all the hotel staff, everyone who showed up here, and also everyone who shows up, regularly to the Portland meetup. It's great to have a group of friends and mentors and just people to bounce ideas with all the time. So big thanks to everyone. Feel free to come in if you're wandering around. All right, sure. Perfect. All right, so I did just want to kind of scope out the room because as I've been basically the past month since I wrote up these slides, I've been just having a lot of different thoughts on how to go about talking about this topic and what is useful for people. And so I guess my first question I have, I'm not necessarily going to follow these questions point by point, but my biggest question is who here is already posting to social media from their Drupal site, has experience with it? Anyone?
Definitely have optimized so that the editors can post a link and it gets all the correct metadata and social media cards and whatnot, but I've not done anything that's automated that process.
Okay. And is everyone here because you have a site that needs it, or you're interested in it, or?
Yes.
Yes, I see a few shaking heads, that's cool. And this is more for me, just thinking about how to go about this, getting into this space. My main use case has been to have basically one. I only need to post to one account per platform, right? And I know that some sites might need to basically have each user be able to post to an individual account, have a social media account associated with that user. So just out of curiosity, is there mostly a single account use case in this room, or?
I would say for the organizations I've worked with, it's lots and lots of accounts because it's going to be governments. So every department or bureau has a account that they post from. So.
Okay, cool.
I'm the president of the university, trying to do things for multiple social accounts, not just LinkedIn, but LinkedIn and Facebook and things like that. So
okay.
Different.
All right, cool. So this is all good. This is all good stuff for me to hear, and I'll get a little bit more into why I'm trying to figure this stuff out with my own work. But yeah, and I guess the last thing I will get to two more of these points. One of them is, with my use cases, I've been trying to basically automate the situation, right? So I'll write up the post, and I just I'll have an article, and then basically while I'm writing the article, I want a place where I can just say, here's what I want to post to Facebook, here's what I want to post to Mastodon, and for me, I want that post to go out when the article gets published. But I know some people like the ability, yeah, exactly, you could schedule it or whatever, but some people like the ability to just click a button and say, I want to post to social media now. So is that are people looking for that more scheduled, automated, posting ability, or more of just I want to write a post and post it now?
Yeah, my client now is most like a major organization, but so I don't see. So far, I didn't see the need, but I'm thinking for a, say, content creator. They want to have a way to manage your content, when to post to which platform. That's it.
Okay, cool.
I think for us, it's both. Whatever the content creator wants to do, today, yes. Oh gosh, as long as I'm sitting here, I'm going to write 3 more posts and like schedule them throughout the month.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
all the control, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
And
cool.
one source to manage their
Yeah.
So there's obviously a ton of ways to go about this, and it's one of the things that makes trying to standardize how we do it so difficult, right? And this is something that I've been thinking about for probably like 4 or 5 years, and I'll probably continue thinking about it for the next 5 years of how to do this right. And it's just something I've been working on, and I will say, getting into this, that right now I don't have a perfect system, but I will also say that right now I think is one of the better times in the past 4 or 5 years to be trying to get into this. And that's something that I didn't want to go in saying, like, here's, that, hey, everyone needs to do this, it's the best time ever, right? Because it sounds like I'm trying to advertise something. But, it actually is. It's a good time, and for a few reasons that I will get into in this talk. All right. So I'm just going to go a little ways back to when I first got involved in this. I think it was around 2020 or 2021. Let me take a step back. The Drupal social initiative occurred before I got involved. It started probably in around 2013, and there were multiple Google Summers of Code between 2016 and 2018 where there was a lot of progress building on a bunch of these modules, and that functionality, was a lot for like posting to Facebook, posting to Twitter, posting to a bunch of different social media sites, but not just posting, also like being able to show, like being able to read things from the social media sites too, like how many likes are on this page, or how many, or even just display, here's a post that someone did, like, and show that back on your Drupal site. A lot of that stuff I'm not focusing on today. My interest is not in all the things all the ways that you can integrate with social media. My focus is on how can I post to social media. So just to clarify that early on, that's this early one, the one right in the middle here, the social post module ecosystem, is primarily where I've been working. And during those Drupal Summers of Code, there were a bunch of modules that were developed. There was Social Post Facebook, Twitter. Social Post X is actually a newer one, which is, as you would guess, it's a fork of Social Post Twitter that has some different approaches, and then there's Slack and LinkedIn, and I recently made Social Post Mastodon. So maybe 3 or 4 of these were made maybe back around 2017, 2018, if I had to guess. I'm not actually 100% sure, but there are some newer ones, and I'm not sure how many of these actually work. I have not tried Slack and LinkedIn, and I have not been able to try Twitter and X because I haven't been able to log into Twitter for my organizational account for a long time, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether or not it works or not, but I've read mixed reviews on Social Post X and Social Post Twitter. And Social Post Facebook and Social Post Mastodon are both modules that I've been maintaining. And Mastodon's totally new, but Facebook I've been maintaining for about 4 years or so. And that's what I was about to get into when I first got into working in this area. Around 2021, I think it was. Social Post Facebook did not work. It didn't work at all. And the reason that it didn't work at all, basically, was that there were major changes to Drupal happening around that time. Right, there were major changes happening to the Facebook API. The rules were changing around how you can use the Facebook API at all, and so those changes in the API, in addition to all the the changes that were happening in Drupal and just the lack of documentation on the subject basically made it impossible to integrate your Facebook account with Drupal. And so that was the first problem. That was the first problem that I was introduced to when I started working with Drupal. Which was a funny one because that was around the time I started working as a developer, and so I found myself often asking, why am I the person who's doing this? Why hasn't someone else done this? So it was it felt humorous, and over time it's kind of just become, this is the reality. This is what I'm working on. This is something that I'm responsible for, or at least I want to take responsibility for. And so I know I'm kind of just showing some of these slides, but this gives a little bit of the history of the social post Facebook module, and just an overview of kind of basically some of the ways that the permissions on the Facebook API side just broke, and also they changed it so that you couldn't post to personal pages or groups anymore. They made it so that you have to post to organizational pages. And so, what you're allowed to do just entirely changed. So the module had to be not just upgraded for compatibility with also underlying changes to the social post and social API modules, but also with changes to Facebook itself. So that was a big thing, and I will say that whole first iteration of updating social post Facebook, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how the module worked at all, and it was quite an adventure getting that fixed. Fast forward to around this year, and the past 2 years or so, and I've been a lot more focused on actually thinking not just how do I get the social post Facebook module working for me, which I've had it working for me for a few years, but how do I make it easier for everyone to use? And that's been tricky because for a few reasons, but one of those is that the main way that the module had worked in previously was with integration with rules, and I've actually never used rules. Rules is something that kind of seemed to fizzle out a little bit before I really got into the Drupal space, and no one that I work with seemed to continue wanting to try to integrate with them. I know that correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that rules basically didn't have a full compatibility with modern Drupal until recently, right? It's been.
So people don't use Drupal rules anymore? No.
Well, now people are starting to, but it's like you're saying, it's mostly shifted to ECA.
What's ECA?
Events, condition, actions.
Oh, gotcha. Almost the same thing.
It's very similar to rules, but it kind of gives you a business logic interface, so that you have a whole graphical interface for saying here's an event, and then when this event occurs, if these things are true, then yeah, it's really cool. It's definitely a very positive step forward for Drupal, and it's also a huge part of where I want to be moving these modules forward, right? And so I have created actions, ECA actions for publishing to your Facebook account and to your Mastodon account for both Social Post Facebook and Social Post Mastodon. And if anyone wanted to copy those for any of the other modules, and that they needed integration for any of the other platforms, then it shouldn't be too hard. It's one file basically for the action, and I actually have found the ECA ecosystem. Is his name Jürgen Moss? One of the main maintainers on ECA. He's been very helpful. Anytime I've asked for how do I make this action or something, and I've also gotten help from John Locke, who I will talk a little bit about. Well, not John Locke particularly, but he developed a module for posting to Blue Sky, which I do also work with, and we'll talk a little bit about as I move forward here. So I've already kind of covered social. So I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on with Twitter. I'm not going to talk about Twitter too much. I just So this might be the last I talk about Twitter. I'm confused about what's going on there, and unfortunately, I don't have good advice for how to post to Twitter because it's not something I've been able to do despite the rest of my experience working in all these things. All right, so everything I've talked about so far has basically just been covering that there is an ecosystem of modules called Social Post, and basically those modules they do more or less what they sound like they do, but just to describe them a little bit more specifically, what they're for and how they sort of embody the Drupal social initiative is the Drupal social initiative is largely about making it easier for module maintainers to develop modules that are in this ecosystem, make it easier for site builders and site administrators to be able to set up all this stuff on the site, but also make it easier for end users who are on the site to be able to know how to post to social media. Not just post, but that's the part I care about, like I said. But there's a lot more than just the social post modules, or there is more anyway. I don't know about a lot more. There are other things, and while I've definitely gotten a lot out of working with just the social post modules, I also see that there's more room to grow and more room to expand into the Drupal social initiative, basically. And actually, that's one of the things that is one of my objectives for holding this session at all and trying to start talking about this more is I want to be in touch with people who have been a part of the Drupal social initiative in the past, and I want to talk to people who are interested in it for its future. Because I think there's a lot of potential there, and it's been interesting, trying to cultivate a direction for it to grow and look into what are the weak points. But that'll be one of my objectives moving forward this year, is just trying to keep that conversation moving forward of what do we need our sites to be able to do, and how do we make this easier for ourselves. So some of the other modules in this space, I have experience with some of them, but not all of them. There is the ActivityPub module. Is that everyone here? Or who here is not familiar with ActivityPub? Okay, ActivityPub is the protocol for things like Mastodon, right? For federated sites, it basically has a way. The ActivityPub module itself is a way of integrating your Drupal site with the ActivityPub protocol. There are good guides on how to use it, but it does have a complicated interface, and you can. I don't want to dissuade anyone from trying to use it, and it's not my main focus, but I do want to say it exists, and it's really cool, and it is a way basically to you can have a Fediverse user on your Drupal site and post on your Drupal site and have people following basically your user on your Drupal site, not just following someone on, not following you on your Mastodon account. So that's how I try to separate the things, right? You can post to your Mastodon account from your Drupal site, or you can post on your Drupal site and have others in the Fediverse follow you. It's awesome. It's really cool. It didn't necessarily meet all my needs, but it is a really cool way of doing things. There is, incidentally, around the same time as I made the Social Post Mastodon module, someone made Mastodon API, and Mastodon API is much more focused on having a system where I think you have I haven't tried it myself, but my understanding is that basically while you're on the page, you can define what the content is that you want to post. I'm not sure how that's configured, but there is just, when you're on your page, I think it's on the edit page of your site, you can click a button that says post to my account. I'm pretty experienced with the indieweb module and Bridgie, which I've used for posting to Mastodon and Twitter previously, before Twitter broke. Is anyone familiar? not familiar with indieweb, all right, indieweb's cool. It's a whole set of standards. I'm not going to get too much into it, but I will describe parts of it which are relevant to this anyway. So there is an indieweb module, and the indieweb module it gives you the ability to it helps you to basically update the markup on your Drupal site and define basically what should be. Let me try to rephrase this. There's a standard in indieweb called microformats, which basically is extensions for HTML, which allow you to kind of have a standard way for organizing your markup using classes, so that external things are able to parse your site more easily, and if there's a standard way to parse your website. I think it's a really smart way to be, thinking about how to have a more interoperable web all around, and that's really what indieweb's all about. But that's one of the things that the indieweb module can help you do.
For all of your Drupal site? Is it for something that's used for all of the Drupal code structure that gets spit out?
You can use it to basically configure which parts of your site should have which markup extensions on it, basically, and to help make your site more parsable. And you can configure that basically per content type. Yeah.
Awesome.
I haven't done that in a while, actually, so I'm not going to talk too much about that, but it was really useful for a long time. And a lot of these things between ActivityPub and indieweb, really the reason that I personally started to move away from using them was, while they're really useful and convenient ways to be able to post to your site when a lot of things weren't working, I personally needed the ability to publish to my site, to publish my social media posts when I published my content, and for some of the time, a lot of the time with the client, my particular client that I was working with, we published articles on a cron job, right? We were using moderation workflows, and we didn't say publish, and we only published during a cron job. And so the problem was, because I wasn't actually on the page, none of these modules would work, because in order to post, you had to actually be on the page clicking the save button. So none of them worked. None of them worked for me. And I've been trying to get away from that for a long time, because I definitely had a long period of time for this particular client where every night I would go and just click save on a bunch of their articles because it wasn't automated, and I'm very happy to not be doing that anymore. But yeah, this is why I care about this topic, and why how I'm trying to move it forward. All right, so I already did mention Blue Sky integration. The Blue Sky integration module is not a part of Social Post, so it does not have a per user way of associating a Blue Sky account with a Drupal user. But for me, that's okay. And I know I've read at least, I think on the module page, that John is interested in, making that compatible with the Drupal Social Initiative. That's something that I would be happy to try to help with, having done a lot of these other modules already. But I also don't have a use case for that right now, so it's not super urgent. And the great news is that the Blue Sky module is still really useful. And the Blue Sky module, I think, was the first of any of these social modules to actually integrate with ECA also, which I got a lot of inspiration from, and have been trying to apply that elsewhere. Drutopia, Microblog, and POSSE are the two that I'm going to talk about a little bit more. They're things that I've been developing recently. I've been trying to architect the POSSE module for the past 3 years, and I have moved forward and moved back and totally restarted several times as I've been trying to solve several of these problems that I've been describing so far. And I do also hope to have a little bit of time to show some demonstrations of it a little bit. But basically, my objectives for POSSE are, as I was saying, I want to be able to post without having to be on the page. That's a big one for me. I know it doesn't necessarily matter for everyone, but it is a big one for me. I want posting to happen at the same time as publishing, and I distinguish this one from scheduling, because there are, with the Activity Hub module actually does have a way to schedule posts, but it's separate from when publishing a node actually happens, right? So there's scheduling a post, and then there's scheduling publishing of an article, and I don't want to have to think about when I schedule these two things. I want posting to happen when I publish. So I just want them to happen at the same time, not to have to schedule when the post goes out. I know that can be a useful feature as well. But the other piece is I want a nice relational architecture. So basically, I want to be able to, when I publish an article, right, and I have and I basically define, what post goes out to each different platform. I want that to be a coherent node in Drupal or some kind of entity, right? So that when I'm looking at an article, I can see all the posts that went out to every other platform, and just have a history of all those posts on every platform, basically. And so by moving into having a microblog basically be just a node, that's what the Drutopia microblog module does. It just provides a node type for a content type for microblogs. Gives the ability to you can integrate that with Drupal in a lot of ways. I haven't done this yet, but it would be really convenient to just have a view that comes with it, right? So that you can just have a view that you can put right on your article page that shows all the posts that went out. And I know that will be as a Drupal site builder, that's a pretty fundamental thing to be able to do. Just have a list of nodes, and of course I want it easy to configure. Let's see. All right, so there's definitely been a few issues that I've come across that I haven't seen others in this space try to address, and there were things that I didn't really necessarily think about until I found myself developing something new, right? And so when you're trying to publish to a bunch of different social media sites all at once, one of the issues that I ran into is if I'm trying to post to 4 different places, and then I click save, then it'll just take as long as it takes to post to all those pages before the page actually reloads and it tells me that I published the node. So one of the things that I'm very excited about with the POSSE module anyway is actually, rather than posting immediately, it just puts things in a queue to be posted, so that queue can be processed later, and that can happen separate, and your user experience doesn't have to depend at all on waiting for all those different actions to occur, and maybe some of them to fail, right? Because you never know what's going to happen. I initially was thinking that I was developing a social post module and something that would really just naturally only work with social posts, but I found that there's actually not any reason that I have to make this social post specific, and it does work with Blue Sky and other things as well. And then the most recent one is I've actually added a more recent. This was just specific to my client, but the ability to actually add a debounce, so that if you're editing a node still and you're not ready for it to be published, or you're not ready for the post to go out, then you can add a debounce to it, so that when you're making edits, it'll say don't send any posts out within 5 minutes of having edited this, because I'm still working on it, right? And so that might just be helpful for people who maybe already published something. Maybe they already published the node, but before it goes out to social media, they've changed their mind a few times on what exactly things should say. I know that might not be useful for everyone, but I put it in there anyway.
It's like every blog post I would order.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
every LinkedIn post needs to be it.
So just to be clear about what POSSE is, it's sort of like a wrapper, right? I basically have a way of queuing up posts through the system, and then it's a plug-inable system so that all these different modules I'm describing, in order to integrate with them, they just need to implement the plugin from POSSE. And I won't go into this, but I've changed the name of this module several different times. So if you're looking through the history of it, it might be confusing. But POSSE is what it's settled on, and it does stand for microblog publish on your own site, Syndicate Elsewhere. But yeah, the main thing is that it does provide a wrapper for having that queue, and then being able to say, hey, when we're ready to do the posts, you use the plugin to find the instructions for how to actually post to the sites.
So you would are they like submodules to it so that it's go to Blue Sky or something?
They're not submodules right now. So the Blue Sky module right now I have it so that the Social Post Facebook module, the Social Post Mastodon module, and the Blue Sky module, I have plugins that are implemented of the plugin that's defined in POSSE, right? So they're not submodules, but they do. There is like a specific file for them to be able to integrate with it.
Got it. So you install those separately.
You have to install
And
those
then
separately.
You can,
Yeah.
configure them to connect to each other.
So POSSE is just my way of basically trying to say, like, I want all these other sites to be easier to do this more complex kind of opinionated. Like it's really and POSSE is really a more complex opinionated way of doing things. It's a little less configurable, right, than if you were to use ECA, which I think is also a great option for people who do want to and I want to fully support all these different options of doing things. I think that
And ECA is event condition action.
yes, that's right. And let's see. So there's some of these things I was yeah. Oops. That's the wrong slide. Where did this go? Oh, I got it. Okay, here we go. All right. So along the way, there's some of these things are already kind of in progress, and I will pull up a demo site so that you can see some examples here. But when I got started on this, these are also things that I hadn't thought about, but these are some of the things that I'm thinking about now, and will probably be doing pretty soon. Is I would really like to be able to, when you go to the POSSE settings, be able to see all the different modules that have a plugin for POSSE and see, is this ready to post, right? Is this module configured properly so that POSSE can use it? And that basically status check is something that I want to add to each of the individual modules. I did already add an ability to soft disable posting. That's just like, or not posting, but soft disable the whole module basically. So I don't want this module to do anything. Just like stop all activity. I thought that would be handy just for different reasons. But one, for if you want to override configuration between different environments, or if there's a reason why, like for some reason, something's not working on your Drupal site and you just want everything to stop, right?
The environment thing is interesting too, right?
Yeah. That is something that I've been working on in the past week, and I'm still trying to figure out what's the right way to handle, how to configure, how to basically set up environment specific posting, because for the most part I don't really want posting on my local or test sites unless I'm testing posting. So there's a ton of different ways that you can go about that, and it is something that I've been thinking about, but it definitely is complex, and I have a lot of questions about it right now.
Are you going to DB store it, or how would you set up that relationship?
It depends, because a lot of the modules work differently. But for example, I think with Blue Sky, some of the the way that you store your access key, it actually works with the key module. Like you store it as a key, which is smart. It's awesome. I would love to borrow from that for some of the other social post modules and figure out how to do that. And there's a bunch of different ways to use the key module, and work with that. But with social post modules, social post it does store, like when you do log into an account or authorize an account, posting to an account, it does store your platform as content in your database. So it's not configuration, right? So like one thing that I've been thinking about is when I sync from my live site elsewhere, then I skip the social post table. I don't want. It's just one example of something that you can do. All right. How are we on time? We're probably around 30 minutes in.
10:51.
Okay, cool. So, would our people? Do we want to take a look at what the mPOSSE module looks like?
Totally.
Okay, cool. Let me get this on the right screen.
And do you possibly have this guy installed on that environment as well?
I do not, unfortunately, right now. I wish I did.
Only to see
The difference.
yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately I do not. I'm not using it live yet. I was trying really hard this week to get this stuff onto a site so that I could demo it.
And then I took up 30 minutes of your time.
No,
too. You're
it's
just
all
like,
right.
"Hey, get out of here."
No, I wasn't trying that today. No. All right. Let's see. Where was I? Here it is. All right. And then I just gotta switch these screens around. Let me just switch to. It's gonna break everything. There we go. Okay. That's not what I meant. That is. Here we go. Okay. Wow, that is some really bad resolution, but let me mirror this instead so that I can see what I'm doing. Yeah, unfortunately, this is. Here we go. Okay. And I'm happy to show any of you after this as well, but but basically, so the main thing is, so after you install the mPOSSE module, the setup, I've tried to make as simple as possible. So basically you do have to make sure that each of the individual modules is set up. Setting up Facebook is challenging, but the good news right now is that it is well documented how to use the Facebook API. That is, and I've also documented that on the Social Post Facebook page. Setup for Mastodon is way simple. Setup for Blue Sky is also very simple compared to trying to work with Facebook. So assuming that you have those set up, I don't want to go into that because that can get that's a whole topic. But basically I set it up so that when you go to the edit page for a content type, I'm going to say it because I know that you can't read anything here.
Is that a thing? Is that some sort of topical layer that makes it obfuscated?
What do you mean?
Or it's just really bad resolution.
Is it just really bad? Oh, I was like,
it's just so bad. It's just so bad, yeah. All right, so this is, you can see I'm on the edit page for a basic page. You can see that much anyway. Down here, there is a tab called mPOSSE settings.
What version of Drupal is this?
This is on Drupal 10. This is Drupal 10 currently. So when you get to mPOSSE settings for whatever content type you have, I just have there's a little switch here. I'm going to read it for you. It says enable inline microblogging. And you just turn that on and click save. And that basically, I don't want to make it sound like that's all the work.
Simple.
That's not all the work.
That's promised.
That's not all the work that you have to do to get posting to work, but to be able to utilize posting with these other integrations.
What's the messages up the top?
So that says the content type basic page has been updated. All right, so once.
Maybe try enlarging text so it resos up.
That's a good idea.
Oh, that is wild.
Nice one. All right, yeah, good call. All right, so when I go to basic page now, I'm not going to actually go through this, but just so that you have an idea of what this looks like. The way that I have this set up is this automatically added this. It's actually just an inline entity form. So I did integrate this with inline entity form, and so that I can just go ahead and click create new microblog, and it pulls up all the. Right now I only have Mastodon on here, but basically the different fields. I can't remember how this default field's working right now, so I'm not going to talk about that. But the idea of it was that if you put something into the default field, that becomes the title of the microblog. And if you don't have anything in some of the other fields, then it should become the default content for. So that's the idea behind that, but I'm actually not sure how that's working right now. But yeah, basically I would just put in whatever my message to Mastodon is right here. If I had integrated this site with Facebook and Twitter or what else, assuming Twitter could work, I will do it with Facebook and Blue Sky is my plan. If I put those in here, basically, then I can just define those messages here. This is the delay that I was talking about, the little debounce, and then I can just click create microblog, and interesting. Cool. So I'm just gonna type a couple things in here real quick. Basically, the idea is that when I go ahead and click create microblog, it does not automatically. All right. It won't publish the microblog right away. So this is something that I have kind of built in, like in the yes.
And it says
Unpublished, right? So the way this is set up is this won't actually get published until the parent node that's referencing it gets published. And there's a whole lot of funny stuff that's going on underneath of that to make that happen.
What do you want to auto save something? I see.
Yeah, down here, the little growl.
Saving draft.
There's like a toast message in the bottom right that's like
Is that
Probably, yeah. I'm not sure how what's doing that actually.
Oh, if you're using Drupal CMS as your base?
Or not.
Oh, because the little autosave might be the autosave module.
Gotcha. We might be using that, and I know that we do have. So this is my local copy of Agaric's site, and we do have I do work with a couple people who are very sensitive to losing their work, but yeah, that's basically it's not published. But as soon as I click save, in this case, because this is published, then that microblog will also get published, and when the microblog gets published, that's when it will actually do a post. And this actually might have posted to my Mastodon account, but that's okay.
Is that high down there the message to Mastodon?
No, that's the title. That's the title of the node. I didn't put any content in this basic page, and I don't really use the basic page either for this. But yeah, this is silly because I actually don't have a use case for posting from a basic page. I would usually do this with an article or a blog, but I know there's a lot of different ways to do this. I just was showing how to install here because I already have it set up for a blog anyway.
And does it wrap around that entity type and share that with these social platforms? Like with Mastodon, does it take, let's just call it, an article, does it wrap that with the title, and basically that's almost like a message that gets sent to Mastodon, and then people would click it and then go back to said website?
That's something that every social media site handles links a little bit differently.
Totally.
And I haven't accounted for that yet. And that's really something that I'm not sure at what level I want to handle that at the moment. But it's a really good point. And right now, if I were to look at this post, it won't be linking back. I would have to do it manually, and it would be great if that happened automatically. Because some social media sites actually have through their API, they actually have a link.
Right.
Like a field basically, for how to post to their API, right? They'll take links separately from the content of the message.
So even now with article, let's just say it was with X or something like that, the format, you can only have so many characters. If you try to post an article and you had more than that, does it just auto truncate because that's what the API allows for? And is that kind of the concept of why people would, or what the microblogging would do? They post an article, they want to share that, distribute it to these social platforms, and it would just take the content of that thing and put it up there with the title.
It takes whatever I put in the Mastodon field. We'll post that to Mastodon, and it won't post anything else. So basically, I define in the Mastodon field what I want to go to Mastodon. That's how it works right now, but it would be really nice to have it be a little bit more configurable, so that you could, have it be like, if I post to Mastodon, then I want it to also send a link back to this page. Like, that's definitely a huge important part of why we post to social media in the first place, And also a big part of my goals with this, right, is there is the microblog that's containing how you define what you post to social media, but ultimately when the post goes out, I don't want it to link to the microblog, I want it to link to the article, right? So that's kind of what I'm trying to put together here is a whole system for thinking, well, how do we manage social media from our Drupal site in a way that feels good, is intuitive, and so that we can see what we've done in the past, and just manage it in an easy and intuitive way. So that's my progress on it so far. That's the direction that is moving in. I'm curious to hear what people think in terms of, and just any questions you have generally, but also like, if there are parts of this that you're more interested in others, like does ECA, it's like, would you prefer just having something that says like when I post, just post, I don't care about the microblog, there's a lot of different, there's so many different ways to approach this. I'm just curious what people like want to be doing with their social media sites.
Can I get a distinction, maybe even just on the word? So microblogging, you said it about relative to the microblog. Is that literally like there's many little blogs which kind of contain, in a sense, articles or thoughts within each little blog, or did I just take that too far? So
microblog is a kind of vague term, but typically it refers to like a social media post is like a microblog, right? But basically in this case, I'm basically using it to describe like the microblog here is a node that contains all the microblogs that go out, that get sent out. So I can understand there being a little confusion around that term, and even I am like, what do people like actually mean when they say microblog?
So in this pipeline, there would be one entity that is used to, let's just say I want to post about being at Drupal Summit.
Yeah.
And I know there's separate entry fields that one will go to Mastodon, one will go to Facebook, one will go to wherever. And if I don't, I've got actually default. They'll kind of take all that if I'm missing it, and it will take the content of my experience at Drupal Summit and post to those places. That's one day, one topic, one thought, and then 2 hours later I might send another little update. Hey, we just got to lunchtime.
You could. And so if I go back, this is actually a good point. If I go back to this blog that let me actually go back into this edit page. One of the things that this might be confusing, and so I do want to actually touch on this. Actually, did that not work?
Demo days. Awesome.
You were expecting.
Yeah. So I actually have a slide that was about things not working, but it's okay. Basically, this should be published, and not only should this be published, you actually shouldn't see this here. It should be none. And so the point is like once it gets sent out, the relation then gets stored on the microblog side, and that's where it gets kept. So that basically this gets cleared out, and if I want to do a new microblog, then I can just add it and send it. So that I can continuously keep doing new ones here, but like the permanent reference is stored actually on the microblog side. That's the idea.
And do you have that visual page yet? The page that shows all the references within that microblog. So that I don't have that yet, but that would basically just be creating a view of microblogs, and you could do that basically. You could create a view of microblogs that showed basically only the microblogs that were referenced by
let me say this correctly. You could show a view of only the microblogs that reference this article, right? Is something that.
So you actually said that one should have just gone away. It should have gone and kind of, it's already been done, handled
should
through
be-
the queue.
It should be gone. So you should see what we saw initially, right? Which was like
the fields.
the fields, or actually it would just be a button that says create new microblog, and then when you click that, it shows the fields.
So then once that guy goes away, and he's now already been delivered and sent out,
Yeah.
where do we ever see that reference again? You said it should come
This
in a
one?
view, or it should be shown.
Right
or you
now,
just have to remember that you did.
Right now, I think that's something that I would like to add and make it also. It's a pretty fundamental thing to be able to configure in Drupal, setting up a view, but it is something that that I think would be useful, and so I might consider having like a recipe or something that might make it easier to configure that view. Like, yeah, sure. But right now that doesn't exist. Like I haven't done that, but I could probably do that in like 5-10 minutes, basically, sort of thing. So, but this just sort of it sets up the architecture, right, so that you can do that easily, so that you can have that list. Like it makes it possible to do that easily.
Yeah, or even just like you were saying, that documentation.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, thank you all. I'm happy to talk to people afterwards if anyone wants to ask me more questions. This is something that I love talking about, and I know there's a lot of different questions that people might have. You can turn it off. That's fine.